Hi everyone, it's Thursday, so it is video day. I'm back with you to talk today about fear and the role that fear plays for a lot of betrayed partners in keeping you stuck. And really understanding the role of it and understanding what's going on with the fear is kind of the key to getting unstuck. So that's why we want to talk about this today. So I'm Michelle Mays. I'm the clinical director and founder of the Center for Relational Recovery and also of Partner Hope. And we're going to dive in today and talk about this. And where I want to start is I want to start with talking about our attachment system. So everybody has an attachment system, and this is how we attach to other people. And our attachment system is formed in childhood from our first attachments, which then shapes how we attach over our lifespan in our relationships. And regardless of how your attachment feels or is functioning, you are still attached to your significant other. So I have a lot of betrayed partners say to me, well, my cheating partner was attached to their addiction, so they weren't attached to me. No, they're still attached to you. If we're in long-term pair-bonded relationships, we are attached to one another. Might not feel good, might not function well, but we are still attached to one another. So this attachment system inside of us is very primitive, it's very primal, and it's very connected to our threat system. So when we experience any kind of disconnection in our attachment relationship, it immediately sends a danger signal to our threat system, and we immediately feel fear and we feel threat, and we often then try to move back toward and regain connection in order to get that feeling of threat to go away. So if you think about pre-betrayal for a minute, and just think about like having a conversation with your significant other where you feel like in some way they missed you. Like you're talking about something, you feel like they completely misunderstood you, misunderstood what you said. It wasn't a huge deal, but there was just a miss. And even in that miss that's fairly small, there's discomfort. Like we feel it. We feel missed. We don't like the feeling. And we can feel a little sense of disconnection from our significant other. And that is our threat system responding to that feeling of disconnection and that feeling of being missed. So if it happens over littler things like that, imagine what is happening when we're experiencing sexual betrayal. Now you've got an attachment system under absolute distress. There's profound disconnection. There's profound danger. Now the connection to your significant other feels dangerous to you. So betrayal automatically plunges you into enormous distress in your attachment system and enormous pain and enormous loss. So a lot of what happens is immediately you're dealing with the loss of the relationship you thought you had. You're dealing with the loss of the partner you thought you had. Now you don't know who this person is. You're dealing with a loss of memories. Things that you thought were a certain way are now not that way as you're finding things out and learning things. You're dealing with the loss of the future. The future that you thought you were heading into is now changed and altered. So betrayed partners are dealing with enormous losses right from the get-go. The minute discovery happens, you are plunged into a grieving process as you're trying to deal with all of these losses. So your attachment system is experiencing enormous loss of connection, enormous loss of safety. Our attachment system's like safe connection. That's what allows us to come in close to somebody else and feel like, that feels really good. It's safe connection and safe bonding. So all that has been lost, and that is what has plunged you as a betrayed partner into this bodily based experience of absolute overwhelm. You can't function, your daily functioning is compromised very significantly when you're in this place. It's an absolute overwhelm to your system. So that's what's happening for everyone at the beginning, right? Everybody's having that experience. What I want to talk about is as everybody moves forward from that initial shock and enormous distress, and as you start down the road of actually kind of starting to deal with what has happened, and maybe you enter recovery, you enter a process of healing, Maybe your partner is working with you to try to save the relationship and you're working together on that. Maybe you've decided to leave the relationship, but you still have to heal. Whatever is happening for you, one of the things that happens for betrayed partners is that fear comes in and can often keep you very stuck. And I see this in particular for those partners who choose to stay in their relationship and are trying to save the relationship, or are in a recovery process with their significant other. Then I really see fear come in, and we're going to talk about what kind of fear we're talking about. So we're going to look at that in a minute. Then I particularly see fear come in, and fear can really get partners sort of bogged down and stuck in the healing process. So what happens for betrayed partners is, because they've had this experience of overwhelming loss at the beginning that keeps going, right? It's not like, oh, I got over that. You're processing that for months and often several years to come. So because of that initial enormous loss experience, what the fear brain does is the fear brain says, we need to not experience any more loss. Like, this was awful, this was horrible. So the brain, the threat center of the brain, is going to be moving you by instinct to avoid any future loss and to try to do behaviors and actions that let you avoid more loss as you go forward. So on the surface, this seems like a smart thing for your brain to be doing, right? To try to help you avoid more loss. But the thing you have to understand about the threat center of your brain, and you all have probably heard me say this a million times, is that the threat center of your brain is not really on the side of you having a full and lovely life. The threat center of your brain, it's very primitive. So it's about keeping you alive. It just wants you to be alive. And you can be alive without experiencing joy. You can be alive without feeling happy. You can be alive without feeling content. You can be alive while you're in enormous pain. So the threat center of the brain is not considering long-term ramifications for your life and what different things will mean for the rest of your life as you go forward. So the instinctual stuff that our threat center brain, our fired up brain, tells us to do is often actually working against our long-term happiness. It's often actually working against us making choices and decisions that move us toward healing, because the brain thinks in a very primitive way, we should just avoid loss, we should just avoid danger, let's just assume everything is dangerous, let's just assume everything is potential loss, and not do anything that might take us in that direction. So we have to be aware of how our threat center functions, and a big part of healing from betrayal for betrayed partners is sort of getting in front of that and being able to bring your prefrontal cortex online, the part of your brain that thinks and reasons and makes decisions, and making decisions for yourself that move you toward healing in spite of what the threat center of your brain might be trying to get you to do. So if our threat center is trying to get us to avoid more loss, and therefore then we are in this place where we're trying to avoid experiencing more losses, this is where betrayed partners can get very, very stuck. So in order to move out of the place that you are in when you discover betrayal in your relationship, you're going to have to be unwilling to tolerate more betrayal. So particularly if you are dealing with somebody who is addicted, addicted individuals will put you through whatever you will tolerate. That is just really true. And this doesn't have to do with the fact that they are bad people. This doesn't have to do with the fact that they are like evil or anything like that. This has to do with the way that the brain is altered and hijacked by addiction, and what happens in the wiring of the brain. And when the brain is addicted, the brain privileges getting the hit of the drug and the hit of the reward above everything else. That is privileged in the brain above everything else, and the brain actually will block out the ability to think about consequences and to think about what the action over here might mean for those you love or even for yourself. So this is the nature of addiction. And so if you are dealing particularly with an addict, this is also true for people who are cheating because their brain is so lit up by the affair. So it can also be true for them. But often when you're dealing with an addiction, an addict will put you through as a betrayed partner whatever you are willing to tolerate. So what I mean by that is until you are able to say, absolutely not, like I will not tolerate any more of this, and you are able to set bottom lines and boundaries for yourself, often the addicted partner will get away with whatever they can get away with. They will drag their feet. They will lie about going to treatment. They will continue acting out. They will try to hold on to their addiction through different stashes that they have. There's all kinds of ways that they can try to continue to have access to the drug. Because remember, it's about keeping access to the hit and the drug of sex. So what that means is that you as a betrayed partner have to be willing to say, I will not tolerate this. I will not accept this in the relationship. This is not something that I can tolerate and stay in this relationship long term. In order to do that, in order to say that in whatever way you need to say it, and it looks lots of different ways for lots of different people, what they need to say and how they need to say it, depending on your unique circumstances. But in order to say that, you as the betrayed partner are basically taking an enormous risk. You're basically risking more loss. So let me tell you what I mean by that. Let's say you have an addicted significant other. Your significant other is addicted. And let's say they have refused to go to any kind of treatment. They've refused to go to therapy. They've just refused to do anything. And you are at the point where you need the behaviors to stop. You need to get on a path of healing, or you're going to have to exit the relationship. So you may say to them, listen, my request that I'm making of you is that you go see a CSAT therapist, certified sex addiction therapist, that you go see a CSAT and you do whatever they tell you to do. You follow their treatment recommendations to the letter. And my boundary is that if you will not do that, then I'm going to need to ask you to move out of the house. So let's say that's the scenario you're dealing with. In that scenario, what you've just done is risked more loss. Because what you've basically said is either this needs to happen, or my boundary is that I need you to move out of the house because I can't tolerate this and I can't live this way. So in that moment of saying that in that way, and you threatening it and saying it are two different things. So, and believe me, your partner knows the difference. So threatening that kind of thing with no ability to follow through on it, you don't have the internal resources to actually follow through on it, it will not work at all. Your partner knows whether you mean it or not. There's an energetic shift that happens inside of you when you mean it. And your partner knows it, senses it, and knows that now we're in business. Now we mean business. So if it's just an idle threat, it will not work. It will not have any impact at all. But if you mean it, if you've come to this moment and you've set this boundary and you mean it, you've now taken the risk that your partner may say to you, I'm not going to therapy. I'm not going to work on this. I'll just work on it on my own, but I'm not going to treatment. I'm not going to do that. They'll often bargain with you. They'll try to get you to accept something different than what you've asked for. And now, if they do that, if they bargain with you, or if they say no, you now have to ask them to move out of the house. You now have to follow through on your boundary. And that means more loss for you. That means now you're going in the direction of potentially losing the relationship fully. So the biggest thing that I see keep partners stuck in the process of dealing with betrayal is this not wanting to experience more loss. And the scenario that I just gave you is a big one, right? The loss is like the person's moving out. There can be much smaller things. There can be bigger things. There's a whole range on this topic, right? There's a whole range of really asking for what you need, having really clear boundaries around your requests that all involve taking a risk. It could be a smaller risk. It could not be something that's relationship ending, but if your partner doesn't respond well, it's going to be very disappointing or it's going to be painful. Those are losses. They're smaller losses, but they're forms of relational loss and relational disconnection. So the fear that we're going to encounter more loss, more disconnection, when we're already tolerating and dealing with an overwhelming amount of loss and disconnection, is often the thing that keeps betrayed partners from using their voice effectively. They often will make threats instead of setting real boundaries. They often will make requests but not have any boundary around the request. They will often do behaviors that let them off the hook, and I don't mean that in a pejorative way, but it lowers the risk. They will do things that lower the risk of experiencing more loss. And often this is going on unconsciously. So often you're doing this not out of a conscious intent. You're not thinking, I don't want to experience more loss. This is your threat system and your attachment system sort of running and trying to help you avoid loss, even though by avoiding the loss, you stay in the pain. By avoiding the loss, you stay in the chaos. You stay in the gaslighting. You stay in the lack of clarity. So this is a normal phenomenon. Most betrayed partners experience this. I certainly experienced this on steroids. And so I want you to know, if this is something that is resonating with you, this is normal. This is a normal thing that happens for betrayed partners. And the trick is to learn about it and to understand what's happening, and then to begin to work with your fear to be able to very gently, very kindly nudge it out of the way so that you can do what you need to do on your own behalf to move you toward health and healing and move you out of intolerable pain and intolerable chaos with the cheating partner. So hang on, I'm turning my notes over. All right, so this fear and avoiding this fear that we're talking about, again, which is normal, often unconscious, but normal. This is something that can keep partners stuck for many, many months and sometimes years. I will see partners come in sometimes to treatment, to the center, and they've been doing this dance for like 5 years. And they had discovery 5 years ago, and they've been in this dance of the cheating partner, never really getting sober, playing around at therapy, dipping the toe in, getting out, dropping out, in and out, in and out, in and out, never really doing what they're supposed to do in terms of treatment. And the partner has spent the whole 5 years sort of trying to get the addicted partner to do stuff, but they haven't ever come to the place where they know how to move through their fear to really risk the relationship, risk more loss by using their voice effectively, setting very clear boundaries, setting very clear bottom lines. They haven't been able to move their fear out of the way so that they can do that. And as a result, they're in this high level of pain for a really long time, pain and chaos for a really, really long time. So I'm all about moving betrayed partners through the pain as quickly as we can. Like, there is no need to stay in this high level pain for years on end, right? We want to move through that, and we want to move out of powerlessness into empowerment and begin to change things and change what's happening. So it's only by working on knowing, becoming aware, becoming conscious that fear is really what's blocking a lot of your ability to set boundaries and bottom lines around things. It's only by becoming aware of that is really what's going on. And then doing the work that you need to do to develop your own internal resilience, and what we call, the therapy language for it is your ego strength. So that internal strength and emotional resilience that will allow you to risk further loss, to risk more loss in order to potentially gain the relationship. So you do not gain a healthy relationship without risking the loss of it. That's just true. So you don't gain a healthy relationship with somebody who's cheated on you without risking the loss of the relationship. Because you have to be willing to say, I'm willing to lose the relationship rather than continue to live in this. And you have to come to the point where you can do that. Now, let me just say this. I am so respectful of people's attachment systems. Our attachment systems are, I think, one of the most amazing mysteries about us as human beings. I mean, I think we understand so much more about it than we ever had in terms of the science of it. But it is such a beautiful and mysterious part of being a human in terms of how we attach and how we intertwine our lives with others, in our families, with our partner, romantic partners. It is a truly amazing thing. And when we pair bond into a relationship, we actually become one biological unit. Our partner regulates our heart rate, our hormones, our breathing, all these different bodily based systems we co-regulate now as one organism with our significant other. So risking more loss in the relationship that you are in, where you are an organism with your significant other, you may not like that after they've cheated on you, but it's still true. So now risking more loss, it is scary and it is hard and it is difficult to do. So I am very respectful of people's attachment systems, and I'm also very careful about working with people to take them through this fear, because the fear is there for a reason. It's really hard to break attachments. It's really hard to risk your attachment. It's really hard to risk more disconnection in your relationship. So that being said, at the exact same time, what I also know is that you have to be able to do that in order to move through into a different and new relationship. You have to be able to risk the loss of the relationship to get a new relationship with your partner. And you need to be able to come to the place in your relationship for the health of your relationship for the rest of your life, right? This is something that once you gain it, you keep it for the rest of your life. But you need to be able to come to the place where you're able to walk through your fears and face your fears in order to ask for what you need, in order to say what's really true for you, in order to speak from your true self, your authentic true self in your relationship. You have to be able to do that to be healthy in a relationship. So this is core work for betrayed partners to do this. And most betrayed partners need a lot of support around this and help in learning what has happened for them and how to begin to nudge this fear out of the way and set boundaries and set bottom lines and use your voice effectively and speak from what's true for you within your relationship. So most partners need a lot of support and help to do that. But it's a key thing on the path of healing. And if you don't do it, you can stay stuck and just going round and round in intolerable pain for a really long time. So we have our Braving Hope program. We're in the middle of our beta test of it, which has been amazing. And we're about to open up enrollment again for it. And so in that program, what we are focused on is giving you a step-by-step learning process that helps you move through this fear and really learn how to speak from your authentic self, claim and own what's true for you, use your voice effectively, not just use your voice, but use it effectively, set boundaries, set bottom lines, and be able to really advocate for health for yourself and for your relationship. So if you feel like we might be able to help you, that would be a good fit for you, then you can schedule a call with us, and I and my team will get on the phone with you, and we will spend some time looking at what's going on with you, where you're stuck, what needs to happen to help you get unstuck. We'll take a look at things with you and think about it, and we'll see if we're a good fit to maybe help you moving forward. So if you'd like to talk with us, if that sounds like something that would be good for you, you can do that by going to partnerhope.com/schedule a call, and we'll also post the link below the video. So I hope this has been helpful, and I'll see you all next week.